of rallies, demonstrations and protests taking place across the country. All of them are calling for an end to Israel's war against Gaza. They're all calling for an end to the siege of Gaza. And we are sending a clear message: no more killing, no more crime. Israel must end its war against the Palestinians. Start with those women and children. I want to open this rally by inviting someone who all of you know and love. And he needs no further introduction. Tony Benn!
Woo! First, can I thank you for coming. Never underestimate the impact that these demonstrations have, because they're reported all over the world. And when women and children are killed, as they are now, it becomes a moral question. And all of us are responsible for trying to stop it. And I want to make a few suggestions as to what might be done. First of all, we have a naval base in Cyprus. And Royal Navy warships should now go to escort all the ships coming to Gaza with humanitarian supplies. And the RAF should be used to fly into Gaza. Not only doctors and medical supplies and food, but also journalists who have been kept out of Gaza by the Israeli government. We should ask the Israeli ambassador to leave London and withdraw our ambassador from Israel. We should recognize the Palestinian state. There should be a free Palestine, and the British government should come out and make that clear. We should negotiate with Hamas now. We should say to the Israelis that we will not allow any Israeli aeroplanes to land at any British airports. And that would be a way of making it clear. And we should also ask the BBC to do a proper job in reporting these demonstrations. I worked once for the BBC, and I tell you now, it is a disgrace. It has a rule. It never reports what is said at meetings. If there's a BBC camera here, all they'll be looking for is a scuffle or a fight or an arrest. They never report what is said, and they lie about the number of people attending our demonstration. So never underestimate the importance of these meetings. I've spoken in Trafalgar Square beginning at the time of the Suez War, and we were denounced, of course, as we always are, and a few weeks later the Prime Minister was sacked and the war ended. And we've had demonstrations here about South Africa, about Vietnam, and I tell you, Trafalgar Square is the politics of tomorrow. If you want to know the future, come to Trafalgar Square and make it clear today what we want and why we intend to continue until we succeed, as we certainly shall. Thank you for listening.
We've seen bombs, artillery, sniper fire, tanks, white phosphorus bombs, which burn for hours, fall on homes, on schools, on mosques, on hospitals. The Israelis' innocent victims are there inside these homes and hospitals and schools and UN buildings. All of you know that more than 1,000 people have been killed and that more than 300 children have been killed. Nowhere in Gaza is safe now. Imagine what that's like for a parent. There's nowhere your child can be safe. And for these new mothers, 3,400 of them, can you imagine the terror and the sorrow in which they are with their new babies? Many people in this square have friends and relations in Gaza, and I know your hearts and your thoughts and your telephone calls are with them all the time. We are all in solidarity with you. Young people have been asking me so often in these last few weeks, is this the blackest time for Palestinians? Is Gaza a new black time? I ask them, since 1948, there have been black times after black times, and I want to remind you just of two. 1982, Sabra and Shatila, at least 17,000 Palestinians were massacred in the camps in Beirut. And I want to remind you also of Tal al-Zata camp, which in 1976 was under siege for 7 months, and nobody knows how many Palestinians were killed. The world forgot those times. This time, the world must not forget Gaza. We are not going to allow it to just bleed into normal television coverage. I also want to just remind you that Gaza has been essentially under siege for the last 2.5 years, and that the Israelis have normalized assassinations, arrests of MPs, the squeezing of the economic life of Gaza. Now, for the first time, the world has seen Israeli war crimes as they are. And I want to give a big thank you to all the Palestinian journalists on Al Jazeera and others who are showing us this. Thank you. We can now see that the narrative of Israel as the victim is completely ridiculed on the screen every day. And that's why countries like Venezuela, Bolivia, Mauritania, and Qatar have cut all ties with Israel. And I want to echo what Tony Benn said. We too, many of us will reiterate that call. And I'm sure that everybody here will take up the call that Palestinian civil society, which is what leads us now, made 2 years ago for boycott, divestment, and sanctions. Enough is enough. Thank you.
Our next speaker, I'm very proud and happy to introduce. Her name is Canon Lucy Winkett, and she's from St Paul's Cathedral.
A few years ago, I met a young woman in Khan Yunis. She was learning to set out a business letter, was learning how to do the margins properly on her computer. I'm here today because of the shattering of her dream and the shattering of lives of young women like the woman I met in Khan Yunis. I'm here today to join with you to say that the death of children and young women like her is unacceptable. To witness publicly to the tragedy of 300 children killed in Gaza and many more thousands traumatized, sleepless and afraid. I'm here with you today to affirm the humanity, the dignity and the future of the people of Gaza. I have never spoken at a rally like this before. I'm here as a Christian to remind us that there are 3,000 Christians in Gaza too. But more importantly, I'm here as a human being and as a woman and as a citizen of this country to call on our government to protest, to call on the United Nations to name the war crimes that they have named today. The shattering of dreams and lives of young women in Gaza is unacceptable. And so we call today not only for the violence to be stopped, but for the truth to be told. Thank you.